This is the Literacy Mindset Podcast, where education leaders discuss identifying and removing phonological barriers with Mindplay's CEO, Jeff Pendleton.
All right, everyone, welcome back. I am very excited today for another episode of the Literacy Mindset. My guest today, Miss Megan Muldoon Brown, who is a special ed director in the Township High School District 214 in the state of Illinois. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm very excited to have you and talk through some of the great things that you guys have going on in 214. Let's see, that's just outside of Chicago. Is that how we would describe it?
Yep, we are in the northwest suburbs of Chicago, Arlington Heights area. Yes.
Arlington Heights, northwest suburbs. It's like being able to describe things with geography of northwest. It's still Chicago, northwest side of Chicago. Like it. Okay, excellent. Well, we're going to dive in and talk about a number of things today that you're doing in the district and how we think about literacy. But let's maybe start with helping the audience orient to you and how it is that you got into the role that you're in today.
Sure, thanks. So I started as a school psychologist and pretty quickly went into some more special education leadership at the building level. And then this is my fourth year as a director for special education here at the high school level at the central office.
Excellent. So school psychologist and kind of then through the admin route. Okay. And always been in Chicago. It's kind of your thing. You know the Chicago area really well. And even let me know that it rains sometimes in the summer, which is very exciting. Hopefully that happens soon. It'll bring the heat down a little bit. Maybe just a little bit more detail on 214. Can you tell us about how big it is and the grade levels to high school districts? I think we know, but it'd be great to.
Sure. Yes. Again, so we have, we're 9th through 12th grade, and we have about 12,000 students in 6 comprehensive high schools, and then 1 specialized high school site with about 450 students for other more specialized needs. But yeah, six comprehensives across over 7-8 different communities.
Okay. Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about literacy at the secondary level and maybe some of the things that have happened since the pandemic. I mean, we're now all adjusting to post-pandemic world and the things that maybe were common vernacular at the time, and now it's kind of normal status quo. But you and I were talking a little bit about sort of a new or renewed emphasis on structured literacy that's kind of had to happen maybe in recent years. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen and why you think that is and what you guys are doing about it.
Definitely. So I think our district historically has had a really strong core curriculum. We have really talented teachers who are very attuned to what is best practice and evidence-based, and a very talented group that follows, Illinois standards and Common Core, and does a lot of work with reviewing that. I think as far as our students who have more significant special ed needs, we have seen, especially since the pandemic, that more of our students are coming to us with needs to develop and strengthen their very foundational reading skills, and students who historically we have not seen that need for. And so our staff really felt strongly about diving in and figuring out how we can meet those needs and really address students and meet them where they're at.
Got it. And if you think about, let's just stay there and hone in a little bit on maybe some of the why on that. Do you feel like some of that is influenced by the onslaught of social media and short form communication that exists, or just simply lack of exposure because of, gaps that maybe happened during during the pandemic and interrupted learning, or what do you think maybe is a bit of a driving force behind that?
Yes, I think we can't say for certain, but likely a combination of all of those things. Certainly students are receiving information and communicating in a way that's totally different than what we were using, 25, 30 years ago. And so, looking at their ability to sustain attention, or just the different types of communication and language they're receiving, and then combined with this real significant interruption to their learning, and students who probably needed very structured, explicit instruction just did not have access to it in the way that they needed during COVID. And so we're certainly seeing students come in with just more needs for that very structured approach in order to meet them where they're at.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I do think that there are multiple factors on it. When you think about, sometimes we talk about barriers to reading success on that, and we just describe them in the context of, the science of reading's components of foundational skills, right? And it seems as though phonological barriers arise more often than not in upper grades when you identify gaps. But it's not uncommon maybe for that to be vocabulary in nature or more on the fluency side. Have you guys identify, is it a mix of everything, or are there certain skills that maybe manifest themselves more in your district than others?
So I don't have significant data on that, but just from speaking with our teachers and based on our meetings as we process through and review our students' needs, I think that students are coming in with gaps. So we're definitely seeing a need for very explicit vocabulary instruction, but also those pockets of skills. So they may be strong in this area, but not in that one. And it doesn't always make a lot of sense. It really speaks to some of those instructional gaps that I assume would be very much related to the pandemic and that interrupted learning. But we certainly are seeing students with some phonological needs that come in and need that to be a very significant part of their reading program.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like when the science, I call it sometimes the science of reading wave, that just like swept across the country and it became such a popular phrase. It was superficially thought of in many pockets as science of reading equals phonics, right? And there's just, you just need to teach phonics on that. But clearly, I think we know that there are many different elements, and I love hearing explicit vocabulary instruction is an important part that you guys have identified. But one of the challenges that you face in a high school district is that most high school ELA or certainly other subject specific teachers aren't overly versed in instructional strategies for these foundational skills that are part of the science of reading. So can you walk us through just some of the things that you do to support classroom teachers in their need to kind of focus on these skills?
Yeah, absolutely. We have such an incredible, caring and talented group of teachers that work in our district. And our special ed teachers, most of them are not only teaching within that instructional or cross-categorical entirely special ed setting, but they're also co-teaching. And so they have a lot of great exposure to the content and to working within that particular context, which is a huge service for our special ed students. And they're able to differentiate both in that gen ed setting and then bring and make sure that students are exposed to that content in the special ed setting as well. But what they were seeing is that our students were just really needing a lot more support with those foundational skills, and that we needed to provide much more structure and needed a really good refresh. And so it really came from our special ed staff saying, who we're teaching those, special education reading and English and, history classes and things like that, that they needed better training. They did not necessarily have the background as a reading specialist, as a high school special ed teacher. Some of them may have even been more highly qualified in math or in science, but happened to be, because of the needs of the population at that time of their school building, were now teaching an English class, and so really wanting to infuse really strong literacy instruction across the board and get that training. And so they decided to come together, and we as an administration just supported and really leaned into their expertise in vetting through different interventions in order to find something that has a foundation in the science of reading and best practices. And then also creating a community of learners so that they could continue to build their own practice and share these strategies across gen ed, special ed, to just really provide good quality literacy instruction across the board.
Right. Yeah, that's important, and finding the right way and the right time to introduce sort of professional development that is for foundational reading skills and not necessarily in their specialized craft. They're typically teaching in high school. That's a bit of a balance. It sounds like you guys are really working through. I like hearing that. What have you found is maybe another element of reading instruction that's more on the maybe thought of as on the softer side of things? I mean, we can talk about the technical skills, right, that are needed there, but you sort of referenced there is a bit of a social and an emotional aspect to this. Tell us a little bit more about what you guys have discovered relative to that and these reading skills that are being developed at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships come first. And in order for students to really be impacted by instruction, those students need to feel a sense of connection, a sense of belonging. They need to have a strong relationship with the adults in the room. And especially for our students who struggle with those reading skills or academics in general, students that struggle in high school, it is very hard to successfully make it through that day. The level of stress they feel, the level of otherness. And so as much as we can create safe, inviting spaces and strengthen relationships to make sure that they feel welcome in that environment. And then also, one of the amazing effects that I didn't think I was necessarily expecting, but heard as one of the most powerful pieces of providing these strong interventions to students is the pride and the sense of self-efficacy our students were outwardly expressing to teachers how incredibly proud they were of themselves and how pleased they were with their progress. And our teachers have spent a lot of time, they are so incredibly talented about maximizing every second that they get with students. They know the urgency we have in really building these skills to get kids ready for life after high school. But they also know that relationship with the student needs to be prioritized. And so taking that one-to-one time to review progress, to look at, the student's kind of map of where they were and where they are now has made a huge difference too. And really been a great hook for students to stay and sustain through the program and sustain through some instruction that these skills are really, really hard for them. And so that's been really amazing.
That's awesome. And so is this just like hiring awesome, amazing teachers, or is there a sort of a way to get them to buy into that side of it, or an instructional component that you're helping the teachers understand how to do that best? Or it's just hire great teachers and they know to prioritize relationships?
I mean, I like to think that we hire the best teachers, but I think too, some people get into education because they love the content area. And I think the people that are our staff that are really successful in their roles are there for the kids. And I would say that is our team. We are there for the kids, and especially in special ed. Like we thrive on those connections. We love hanging out with them. We're that rare group that just can't get enough of teenagers and, hanging out with adolescents. So, students feel that they can tell when you're being authentic or when you're kind of phoning it in, and our teachers just really love hanging out with their students and certainly want to be there for them when they and show them all the amazing things that they're capable of.
Yeah. Well, I love the feedback point. So have you found, do you do something more universal? Like, hey, this is how we give feedback. We do words of affirmation. We're constantly telling them. You do, success walls where you hang up all of the awesome stuff that's happened. Or how do you most commonly celebrate success?
I think it's more informal and it's very individualized. I think that you have to know your students. Some students want that affirmation and they want to be publicly acknowledged. And some students really just want that quiet, you're doing great and I'm proud of you. Our district has done a lot of trauma-informed teaching work. And so understanding that every student has a story and, meeting kids where they're at and understanding, that safety and belonging is paramount. So I think we use all of those different strategies with our students to make sure that they feel acknowledged. And that's also, a great foundation for making students feel like they belong.
Yeah, that's an important part of it. In trauma-informed settings, does it influence the way that you guys think about text selection or just what's made available, novels and otherwise? I'm curious if there's any distinct influence on that. I'm not familiar with any particular research, but just as something that you guys have been doing, wondering if that's come up at all.
Yeah, I think that our teachers and our curriculum teams are very cognizant of choosing text as much as they can that students will be able to connect to. So, a wide representation, diverse voices, and students want to be able to relate to, whether it's a novel, a character in a novel, or if, you're learning about significant events around the world, students want to understand and make that bridge. So I think our curriculum teams have really evolved in the last, decade or so with, our equity work, our trauma-informed work in understanding the importance of students seeing themselves, feeling represented, having their voices heard.
Got it. Let's shift a little bit towards technology and its sort of influence on literacy and how you think about it. So device-wise, I think you told me that you are iPad district. Is that correct? Okay. So as you think about curricular decisions, especially on literacy, how much does technology play a role in it? Meaning, is it we want something that they can do on their iPad, so therefore we're only going to look at and select curriculum that can be done on an iPad? Or is it we're going to look for the best curriculum and it might be a textbook, and if they happen to have something on the iPad, that's great too. Is there a framework that you guys use relative to decision making for that?
I can speak to special education and looking at curriculum. And I would say we certainly consider just the access options with the iPad. We don't limit our choices to only iPad compatible or like can be used through the iPad. We recognize that there's a variety of tools and resources that may not be a perfect fit. But I would say that the accessibility with the iPad is fantastic, and just like being able to access different platforms and things like that. So it's a question we ask, but it's not a foregone conclusion.
It's not the major driving force.
Yeah.
I'm interested. Do you, some states have now legislated it, and so it's a very hot topic across the country. But what does personal device policies look like in the high schools? Are students bringing those devices, and are they things that you guys try and incorporate into it? Do they have to put them in a pouch? Do they get to bring them? Like what does that look like in?
Oh boy.
14. Yeah.
I think that we are still sorting through a lot of that. In 214, we have what are considered like phone homes. And so students are directed to deposit their device at the front of the classroom, and they're really not supposed to have it on their person during instruction. So that we try to limit the distractions as far as that goes. Students are very savvy though. And so I will say with access
one
to
phone
iPads,
here, burner phone in the back pocket kind of a thing. Yeah.
Access to iPads, Apple Watches, or different devices. I mean, it is certainly hard to police everything all the time, but as much as we can get that face-to-face connection with them, and with each other, we're certainly going to do what we can to prioritize that.
Yeah. And it kind of makes me ask the question a little bit as well. I have a daughter that's a senior and a daughter that's a freshman right now. And I get in trouble when I use punctuation in text messages. Apparently that's not supposed to happen. But what I'm interested in is what's the context switching look like inside of a building? Are students really capable of being like, this is how I talk on a phone, but like I can write a paper, no problem? Or do you see, 144 character tweets and text message sort of acronyms show up because it's just become who they are?
I'm trying to think about that. I think that more students struggle with crafting a grammatically correct email, or, even some of the, the code switching they have to do from peer to adults. Right. That is something I think our case managers, our special ed teachers, specifically within our resource classes, strategies for learning is what we call basically our resource classes, but there's an instructional component as well. And that is one of the things that we talk about. And that kind of more like professional communication. What does it mean to be a student? And that would be one of the skills that we're working on. Definitely.
I like it. Yeah, it's just everywhere right now, right? And so it has to be part of how you think about the day, because it feels like there's a new language forming through text messages that I am clearly slow to keep up with. Okay, last technology question in this particular case. How about AI? What's the district's policy on AI? Do you have a policy? Do you use a framework? Are you embracing it, or are you shunning it? Like, how do you guys think about AI today?
Yeah, I think we're embracing it. We see it as this opportunity, right? Get in front of it. So many of our students are already ahead of the game. And so trying to keep up with them. We were really lucky to have our superintendent Dr. Scott Rowe brought in Bill Daggett last school year who spoke to our entire staff group on Institute Day. And it was an amazing presentation and introduction just to the whole world of AI in education. And really, for me, it shifted my perspective. It made me really excited. And just like the way education is changing. And so I'm really excited. I think that plenty of teachers are nervous about it, but also, playing around. And certainly in special ed, there's a lot of opportunity for efficiency and differentiation and all kinds of exciting things that make the world so much more accessible for our students with disabilities. So I'm excited. I certainly, there are things that I think we're all nervous about with AI, but there's a lot of opportunity there.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully, my IEP will be very, very available soon, right? Like, just take care of all this paperwork for me. Here's all the information. Now you put it in the system. So it's great. Well, Megan, it's been great having this conversation. There's a lot of things we've been able to discuss and talk about. I'll probably wrap up here with your view of the future. It's kind of how I like to end most of these episodes as we think about where we're going, whether or not AI plays a role in that. It's hard to say because everybody is trying to predict some degree of the future there. But really, maybe I'm more interested in, is there anything that you worry about right now, just stuff that you're doing and going through motions regularly that you worry a little bit about the future? And then maybe give me something that you're really excited about future, just how you see things progressing.
I am worried about students' ability to socially connect and just their overall emotional intelligence. I think that is something that we as educators need to absolutely prioritize, just really homing in on social emotional learning. And then I am really excited about this trend that I think our district in particular was really, really on the forefront of and setting the curve for, career pathways. So, guiding education, guiding that high school experience really towards looking at your post-secondary goals. And so more specialization, I think with AI and with technology, there's more of an emphasis on the problem solving process and creative thinking and just innovation overall. And I know that our district really provides a lot of opportunity and continues to grow in offering this specialization and being able to really experiment with different career experiences and opportunities. I think that's really exciting. And I know that in Illinois in particular, but I think across the country, that's really where we're seeing a lot of high schools start to focus.
Yeah, that is exciting. And I do think that as we get more towards helping high school students with whatever their post-secondary world looks like, it is an exciting future. Well, thank you so much for taking time today out of your day to join the show. We've been educated on a number of different things that we're doing in 214, and I really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Learn how we help students by identifying and removing phonological barriers at mindplay.com.